Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Going to spend some time talking to you about you and your business. And let me tell you, I have a lot to cover on today's program. I'm going to jump right into it. I've got Hugh McCullom with a company called Abyss Studios. We're going to talk a little bit about a new video game he's developed. Hugh, welcome to the program. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your video game.
Hey, Kevin. I actually have been working in the video game industry for a while, and it's an interesting industry to work in. And I actually decided to start my own company, so I'm excited.
Very good. Tell us about the video game.
So it's an action sci-fi RPG. It's going to be a lot of different things. It's really highly story-driven, and you're going to be exploring this large open world, and it's all stuck in this place called the Emir. The game itself is called Zod the Emir, and it's in a galaxy, the Zod galaxy, and you're within this bubble called the Emir, and it's you and 5 other races that are stuck in here trying to figure out why you're there, and you kind of explore the star cluster that it's within.
And when does this come out?
So the release date for the game isn't set yet. The production scale is about 18 months, and that depends on when we get full funding. So,
Are you? So you're still in the process of raising money for it?
Yes, we're still raising capital for the company itself. We're going to have about 14 of us working on the game, and our start for capital is going to be starting out with raising through Kickstarter, crowdfunding through Kickstarter.
So when did you start the business again?
So the business actually started about almost a year ago now. It was February of 2013, and that's when we started kind of pre-production on the game and developing the ideas and developing our campaign for Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a little while before that, I myself was working on just the business model and developing the business plan and how we would go about raising the capital for the game.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so do you think, how many more months before you have the revenue raised?
Well, we're looking at trying to start production around late April, early May. But it all depends on how our Kickstarter goes. And then on top of that, I'm also doing some private investment from family and friends. And depending on those two and when we finish the capital fundraising for that, that's when we're going to start production and develop a prototype. And for the large leftover portion of the game development, which would be the real meat and potatoes production, that's when we move into angel investment. So it's a couple of stages of capital raising.
Mm-hmm. And what inspires you to make this particular game? How did it come along?
So it's always been on my mind. Since I was younger, I love video games. I actually went to college for architecture, and I've been playing games for forever. I worked in architecture for a while, and I just took the leap to go into games. And what really set me on developing this game was working in the industry, and I learned everything I could on how to produce a game, and it all culminated into finally saying to myself, I really want to do this.
Did you actually finish your architecture degree?
I did. Actually, I have a 5-year Bachelor of Architecture degree.
Wow, that's crazy. Where'd you go?
I went to Roger Williams University up in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, yeah. Roger Williams is the founder of Rhode Island. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, interesting. It's an interesting story. And tell me about your team.
So my team's composed of a bunch of friends of mine that I actually went back to school again in Chicago to the Art Institute for a fine arts and video game design. And I met a bunch of kids there, and a lot of them have worked in the industry in various ways, and I've kept in touch with them. So I finally decided that I was going to pull the trigger and start actually creating my own game. And so I called these guys up, and I got them on board. And that's really my biggest portion of the team, is all these kids that I know from throughout the industry and from school. And then one of the greatest assets that I got was when I was working at Disney, I met a writer named Randolph Hurd, and I was able to steal him from Disney, and he's awesome. He's making the biggest contribution to this by making this amazing story to fill the game. So,
yeah, very interesting. By the way, when did you finish school?
At AI, I finished that around 2010, and I started working in the games industry from there. I mean, I actually started working while I was still in school in Chicago for a company called Robomoto on the Tony Hawk series, and it was pretty awesome, pretty cool experience.
When did you finish your architecture degree?
Oh, I finished that back in 2007, and I worked for a little while in architecture after that, and slowly kind of realized that I love architecture is my number one love, but working in architecture is very different from what it was like in school. A little bit more design oriented in school, and actually in the field you don't become a true designer until you become licensed, which is quite a big thing to undertake itself. So
interesting. Got to wrap it up. Your website real quick before I let you go.
My website is abyssstudios.com. So abyssstudios.com.
And thanks so much for being with us.
All right, thank you.
All right, when we come back, much more for you as you listen to The Price of Business. Do want to remind you about our friends over at usdailyreview.com. While there, like them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter.